everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday.
Thanks.
Yeah, welcome, Ryan. It's another Wednesday. It's a great day to not worry because it's Wednesday. Yes. And yeah, a lot of you have been here before. If anybody's here that hasn't been, welcome. We're glad that you're here. And this is a show where we discuss any issues or challenges that people are going through. You can either post them here in the chat, or you can post them right here on our website, and we will get to them there. But yeah, we're not professional therapists or counselors. We're not a substitute for professional help. We just want to do everything we can to help you guys out, as a friend, pulling up beside you, offer some perspective, some encouragement and love, and just help you along the journey, because it can be tough. Sometimes when you're in the middle of a challenge, sometimes it takes just an outside perspective along with some encouragement. And, it's amazing how far that can go to help you through. Yeah. So above me is Static P, Ryan. You guys all know who he is.
Heyo.
How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing excellent and fantastic and phenomenal, and I am doing great and beautiful, and I am doing better than you, and I'm way better than you and doing, and I am doing, thank you. How are you?
Man, wow.
Well, obviously not as good.
Why did I even do the intro then? Like, if you're doing that good.
I just figured I just wanted to let you know how I'm doing is like that. Your voice is a bit down. I'm doing great, guys. Everything's perfect and stuff. So it's awesome. I love it so much.
Well, good. I'm so glad.
I'm so excited for you. All right, how you doing?
I'm great. I have lime green hair. Princess says it's probably. Well, it might be my camera playing a little trick. It's actually more of like a khaki green, like canned pea green, kind of. You ever open up a can of peas and you pour them out, and they got that khaki color, and they're mushy and gross.
That's awesome. I love it that way.
That's my hat.
Nice. So you kind of got like a pea hat.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you need to change places. That way you can be the P.
P-E-A.
Yeah, P-E-A.
Spelled P-E-A. Pea hat.
That's right. Pea hat.
Because if you took that the wrong way, it'd be really gross.
Yeah, it could be. I mean...
Yes. Isn't khaki
There's a
brown?
bucket shirt.
But my shirt's kind of khaki colored too. It's like that. It's like that brownish, greenish, dirt like colored stuff.
Princess wants to know if you can eat it.
Can I eat my hat? Yes.
That's a funny phrase. That's actually a phrase that people say. Eat my hat. Yep.
But yeah, olive green. Jeff, you are so precise. Jeff is the king of precision.
Wow. Haley, yes. So here's the thing. I didn't read your resume that you posted to me on Discord. I didn't get a chance to read it yet. I saw that you posted it. I was going to read it before the stream, but I didn't end up getting to it. So I'll have to read it sometime soon, though. I promise. Thanks for sending it. I'll check it out, though.
Yeah.
For anybody wondering, it's a resume on how it's a kidnap me resume that Haley decided she wanted to. She's trying to get people to kidnap her, and so this is her resume. She's filling it out, saying, "Hey, look, I'm a good kidnappee employee type deal."
Yeah, kidnappable.
Yeah, extremely. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah.
Which
you
is
can
an
see that she's very qualified for all of the different requirements. Apparently, she wants to let everybody know.
I've never heard of a resume like that. But
me neither.
If I was going to write a resume like that, I certainly would send it to Ryan.
Yeah, you would hope that I would kidnap you.
I would send it to Ryan for sure.
I think I would be a good person to have kidnap you, just because, one, I wouldn't really do it, but then two, my mom would take care of you.
And she's awesome.
And my mom's awesome. So
she is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, so welcome everybody. This show is produced by Jesse Van Slyke. We got to give our props to him. He's the one who keeps us on track and tells us when we're going too long and, cuts us off and turns the cameras on and does all that stuff for us, so.
Thanks.
Yes. Thanks, so thank you, Jesse. He's the guy. If we ever get brought on early while we're making funny noises, he's the guy. And if we ever get cut off early and then brought back, that he's the guy. And when everything goes according to plan, he's the guy.
Wow.
So absolutely illustrious. So yes, Jesse, you are amazing. Thank you for producing this show.
Can you define illustrious for me?
Dude, seriously?
I think we did this before, didn't we?
We've done this every show because I use the word. I say illustrious. And
I know, but I need you to define it for me because it's just a word that doesn't stick to my head. Illustrious. It looks like it comes from the word illustrate.
Actually, I think it more comes from luster.
Oh.
Like shiny and bright and amazing.
Ah. Thanks, Princess. Well known, respected, and admired for past achievements. Yeah, we definitely did that one before.
Yeah.
Luster.
And Jeff did it too. Well known, respected, and it's an adjective. Adjective. Come on, Joe. We do this every stream. Come on, it's adjective. Works for me. It's an adjective.
Oh my gosh. No,
I object to adjective.
I am euphonious. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I want to play a euphonium. And then I'll be a euphonious euphonium.
Oh, that's such a beautiful instrument. Have you ever heard somebody play the euphonium well?
Yeah.
Baritone euphonium. There are lots of different kinds of euphoniums. There are tuba euphoniums and baritone euphoniums. I'm talking about the baritone euphonium.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. There was this kid when I was in high school, a good friend of mine, he played the baritone euphonium and we played the song Green Sleeves. It's getting close to Christmas time. So, hey, the song Green Sleeves.
Yeah.
It was on our Christmas concert, right? And he had the solo, the first solo in the opener, and it was so gorgeous. I get chills just thinking about it. If you've ever heard that baritone brass that's played with such richness and beauty, he nailed it. And it just I think back to that moment, I'm like, wow, he really made that instrument sing. It was just such a beautiful instrument.
Yeah, that's cool. I do like I like one of my favorite instruments is the French horn. Even though it's not like an instrument I'd ever play, its sound is so important. Like if you ever listen to any I think George Lucas, who's the guy who wrote the Star Wars themes and the
John Williams.
Yeah, that's what it is. John Williams. Yeah, for Star Wars, and he also did Lord of the Rings and all these other movies. If you pay attention to any of his symphonies, he always does a great job on the score for the French horns, and there's so much emotion packed into them. You want to add so much emotion to your music. You just throw in a French horn, and then bam, you've got something that is rich.
Yeah, the French horn is a beautiful instrument. It's a tough one to play. It takes some skill to get to the level of playing it, with that type of expression.
Oh, sure.
But yeah.
That's true for almost any instrument.
That's true, yeah. Yes, Haley, I'm familiar with the vibraphones. I'm a percussionist.
Vibraphones are fun. I like vibraphones.
In fact, I had a vibraphone solo one time in a dance show.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you play the vibraphone, you don't have the vibra part on.
Right, because that's a mechanical addition.
Right.
Is it mechanical? Exactly. Is it run through?
Yeah, it's this little thing because there's the pipes underneath. It's like a long xylophone that rings forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And then and then the pipes underneath the resonators. They have this mechanical thing that spins in there. It makes it go. Whoa, whoa.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Is Ryan got something messing with his audio? Probably.
Jesse, am I like popping and speaks and pops?
I hear it. Sometimes I wonder if it's just my headphones, though.
No, I don't know.
He says it's a little bit. Well, maybe it'll fix itself. Sometimes it's just
a little bit. I mean, I can try to fix it real quick. We'll see how it goes.
Well, while Ryan is fixing that, let's take a look. Has anybody posted anything so far in the chat? I don't see anything so far in the chat. Let's see. We do have some stuff on the website that we can get to here. Popping and peaks and speaks and popping.
Can you hear me?
You ever heard my hit single? Popping and peaks and speaks and popping. Yeah.
Yeah, just now. It's great.
So let's see. We've got a few from Akil. We've got one from Munker Star on the website. We also have one from Amira that I don't think we got to. Oh no, wait, we did get to that one. That's right. We did talk.
That sounds better. Wonderful.
Akil
has a couple here.
Yep, Akil has a couple that we could get to. Akil, if you are here.
I don't know if they're here today. He seems to have racked up quite a few, but isn't here lately to actually have us talk about him.
Right.
Joining towards the end of the streams or something, but I don't know.
Oh, Haley. Haley says her mom's divorce was finalized yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's never that's can be a pretty painful experience.
I think Haley did have one on that note, but maybe that was not written down. I remember her saying something about it last stream. I believe.
Yeah, did she send it and then retract it or something?
I'm not sure.
Haley has one in here about a dream she had, a tough dream. I don't know if we handled that one. That was from a while ago. And then there's also, let's see, there's some from the Slightly Above Average Joe that he has posted, and even if he's not here, he always watches and he says, just go through them if I'm not here, and that's okay. So school destroyed your brain, Haley.
School destroyed my brain. I like it.
Mine too. We could talk about that for a day or two.
A day. That's funny. School destroyed my brain. Isn't school to help your brain? Yeah, but it destroyed it too.
There's a couple things. Okay. So the dream one, I mean, we can touch on the dream one.
Luxoka had one as well, but I don't know if they're here. He sent me one and was wondering if we could do one on this Wednesday on, but he's not here. So if he comes, then we'll do that.
Okay.
But anyways, as you were saying.
Perfect. Well, let's take a crack at the one Haley posted here.
All right. What's it called? Tough Dream?
It's called Tough Dream. Yeah.
All right.
So Haley, back in November, which was, a couple weeks ago, posted on here, I feel like last night I dreamt that I no longer cared. or had any desire to help people. But I don't know why I dreamed about that.
All right.
And she says, let's see if I can remember this existing.
Yeah, because a dream is a hard thing to remember.
It is, but yeah, I totally can understand that. But Ryan, do you have anything that you could say, speak to on that about a dream? If you have a dream that you just no longer care or had any desire to help anybody, you just had this apathy that set in toward others. What would you have to speak to that?
For myself, usually I just wake up and be like, well, that was a dumb dream, or that was a silly dream. Because I don't usually pay a whole lot of attention to dreams. But sometimes our dreams can have meanings to them. Our dreams can be a lot of times the result of thoughts that we had before going to bed. Like, if we're thinking about a specific thing and we fall asleep, we might have a dream about that sort of thing. Or certain things throughout the day kind of help us to have certain dreams as well. So it might have been a thought that you had before falling asleep. You might have been in this place where you're like, man, I just don't care about anything more. I give up. I stopped caring about everything. And that could cause a dream like that. Sometimes those types of dreams can teach us things though too. Like sometimes you might have a dream and you're like, wow, I didn't like that. And so you find things you don't like. Sometimes you wake up from a dream and be like, man, I wish I didn't dream about that. That's stupid. And so sometimes, yeah, you can learn things from your dream. You can learn what can make you angry. Apparently Joe's waken up or awoken from dreams. That might be the better terminology. But anyways, has awoken from dreams angry that he had the dream that he had. I've never been angry at my dream, but I've been disappointed. I've heard of a lot of people having disappointing dreams where they'd be like, why would I do that? Why would I ever do that in my dream? Like, I understand it's a dream, but why would you do that? It's terrible. It's so mean. I hate me. Why would I do that? I know it's not real, but it's stupid. Yeah, like that happens. I get it. So yeah, I mean, dreams are dreams. I think dreams can be significant. There have been, love you too, Senna. There have been, many stories about dreams being, how would you say, supernatural to a degree. In various religions or various different parts of the world, they consider dreams to be an inner look to one's soul, or even beyond that, a communication between different realms. Now, I think that there could be some truth to that, but overall, most of the time, dreams are simply just our brains going off on a tangent, as they often do, but then formulating a story or a concept that our mind follows while we sleep. I wouldn't dive too much into the realm of what dreams could mean to how your day is going to be, like horoscopes and that sort of thing. I would just kind of shy away from that myself, just because our brains have a interesting way of changing what we think of reality. If we get too far into that, we can do some damage. Ultimately, as weird as that sounds, like our brain, like you can say, I don't know if any of you've ever read a horoscope and said like, wow, that sounds just like me. And then your friend is like, that sounds just like me. And then everybody's saying that's just like me, and it's like, well, of course that horoscope applies to pretty much everybody. And it's like, oh, okay. But then, sometimes those things can be like, oh, today's going to be a really bad day for you. And the problem there is when you think that day is going to be bad for you, then you start to worry about all the bad things that are going to happen throughout that day. And then your brain becomes attuned to finding the bad things. And when the bad things happen, you're like, see, the horoscope was right. Well, that thing was going to happen no matter what, whether you read the horoscope or not. But your brain was fixated on it because you read the horoscope. And that can do some damage. So I would basically what I'm trying to say is I wouldn't look too much into your dreams and trying to figure out how they might have they might be like foretelling the future or something like that. Because our brains aren't really capable of that. Our brains don't have a physical connection to the future that can tell us the future, or that sort of thing. There's no science behind that, I would say. So it's kind of a tangent elsewhere, but yeah, regardless. I'm going to give over to Joe and let him say something that has some...
Well, it's funny that we're talking about this because I was just listening today to one of our podcasted episodes on dreams that was a question that was posted by Princess about dreams and nightmares specifically. And, we kind of went into detail about dreams and dreaming and all that kind of stuff. And that's on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. You can find it there. And it's also on Spotify and iTunes and, Podbean, bunch of places. But dreams are an interesting thing. It's kind of like it's your subconscious kind of playing games with you. We don't necessarily have control over what we dream about. And like Ryan said, I've woken up angry because I dreamt something. Sometimes I've woken up and I was angry at the person I had the dream about because they did something in my dream that made me mad. And so then I was mad at them. And it was
even though they never actually did anything real.
Right.
Terrible. You go to school, you're like, I'm mad at you. And they're like, why? Because my dream last night, well, I have no control over that.
Oh, you do. You certainly have control over my dreams. No. But yeah, it was really interesting because that, I don't know, it just was crazy how that all panned out. But I've had dreams where I've woken up and I was really, really glad it was just a dream. Stuff was going on in there, and I'm like, and you know how you get the feeling when you do something you don't want to be doing, and your heart just sinks to the floor, and you're like, oh no, and then you wake up and you're like, oh phew,
yeah,
that was a dream. Oh my gosh, I was lucky. I didn't want to have that happen. But but as far as a dream, the thing to remember with dreams is that they are simply just that. They are just dreams. And you can take stuff from dreams. You can definitely take insight from dreams. Yeah. You can dream something and then it can then in your waking mind, it can spark some introspection and you can maybe determine some things. I know of people that they've focused on something and focused on because they need the answer to something. They need the answer to a problem. And so they're thinking about the problem. They're thinking about the problem. They're trying to find the solution and they're trying to figure out how they're going to find the solution. And when you're fixated on something like that, for a period of time and you're just trying to figure out the solution to this problem, always keep a pen and a piece of paper next to your bed. Because many, many, many times there have been people that because they're focused on this issue, they're focused on this problem and they need to solve it. They're focused on all this kind of stuff. There are many times where the solution will just come to them in a dream. Their subconscious mind will go to work on the problem for them, while they're sleeping. And then all of a sudden, there it is. And so then they wake up at 3 a.m. and they gotta have something to write with, and write the solution down. So
I've had that happen to me, but it doesn't work for me because I'm like sleeping and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, that was such a cool song. Wait, I can't write that down. It had like 17 parts to it and it's already gone.
Yep.
But yeah, no, that's really a great tip. That's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, but when you're having dreams, sometimes we just dream stuff and we don't know why. And it doesn't reflect on anything about anything that we are. In this situation, Haley, you dreamt that you no longer cared or had a desire to help people. I mean, I know that's not you.
Right.
From what you've posted here in the chats and, from in the forums and everything, I know that that's not your MO. You are a tremendously caring person and you're a tremendously loving person and
a very big heart.
Yeah. And it's so great to have you around. And I always light up, when I see you here. It's great. And so I know that's not you. And if you're having dreams that, that portray you as a person that doesn't care, I would just dismiss that as quickly as possible, because that's not who you are. And it doesn't serve the world well. It doesn't serve you well if you were to go down that path, because you are a beautiful, wonderful hearted person. And yeah. So don't give that a second thought. Just continue being the wonderful person that you are.
Yeah.
And, if you got a dream that pulls you in that direction, just, hey, no big deal. You can dismiss it and it's all good. But then sometimes, but like I said, sometimes dreams can be important. They can help you to be introspective. Looks like this caused you to be introspective a little bit anyway. Like it made you think a little bit. Wonder why I would have a dream like this. And, sometimes you just don't even have to give it a second thought. You can just dismiss it. Yep, just a dream. No big deal. I had to do that when I woke up mad at the person that was in my dream that offended me in my dream. Because I'm like, then I talked to him and I'm like, I'm bringing my anger into this conversation. This is ridiculous. They didn't do anything. I don't like slap myself. Like, this is so stupid.
Yeah, that's so funny though. I mean, our brains are they cling to our emotions, and so when we have this like emotional fit, like, man, this person made me angry. And so then you talk to the next time and you've got this anger in the background. You're like, what is that even there for? Like, that was like a dream. It's true. It's interesting how our brains do that to us. But very real, very, very natural, but not good.
Yeah. And now we've got people talking about their dreaming experience. Senna, was dating 5 guys. That's wow. That's crazy.
What? Senna, wow, you dog.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But anyway, so dreams are that they're just dreams sometimes, but they can be of value. So thanks. Hopefully some of that helped out. I'm sorry you didn't necessarily remember posting that, but that's the beautiful thing about having Princess with us, is that she will post it, and then it will be remembered, and we can talk about it still when you come back. And then, and it makes for a great conversation. So,
by the way, welcome, KP. Nice to see you.
Hi, KP.
I like your what do you call that profile picture? That blue and black. That's one of my favorite colors of blue. It looks beautiful. And you're beautiful. So.
Anyways, am beautiful.
Thanks, Joe. I'm thanking you for me calling you beautiful.
Oh,
yeah. I'm thanking you for interpreting me calling somebody else beautiful as me calling you beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for posting, Haley, and hopefully some of that was helpful. And I saw Akil is here.
Akil, hey.
Hi, Akil. Akil, you're here, and we have stuff from you we can talk about.
Lots of them. Well, not actually a whole lot, but a couple.
Yep. We already handled the Addicts one. Yep. So we got Square One and Hades.
What'd you say before the Hades?
Square One.
Did we do wait? What about this Noblesse? Oh, that's Noblesse Oblige. Oh man, is that hold on, let me make sure my things are ordered by newest. Yeah, start date. Yep, they are. Okay. Yep. So Noblesse Oblige or however you want to pronounce that word.
Okay.
Obligatory. Oblige. That's I think the first one of those 3, right?
Yeah. So that's probably where we should start. Is that one? So Akil, I saw you here. So hopefully you're still here because we're going to talk about it. It's going to be great.
Yep.
And if you miss it, then boy, good thing it's on YouTube forever.
Yep. So here's what they said. The obligation of the nobles. By the way, I love looking into royalty and realizing that their job isn't easy either, as against what's portrayed in common media. All the weight falls back on the nobles. So we'll see how this posts what they say. The obligation of the nobles, defined as a responsibility of the gifted, the powerful, the higher. I dreaded this concept back then, back when I was too close-minded. I've always hated the idea of gap in strength and envied those who seemed to be above me. The thing is, I'm the one that put them on the pedestals when they are actually standing on the same level, struggling alongside me to keep at it and work hard on their gifts. They were given opportunities, something everyone could have. It wasn't gifts that created success. It was the fact that they suffered for it. After all, life without darkness is also life without appreciation of how bright light is. I was blessed against the royals. I was biased. Okay, that makes sense. I was biased against the royals too, especially my own, since they bear quite the significance here, even in democracy, or even in a democratic country. They have duties to attend to, and I expected them to do it perfectly. I've had always thought of them as being lucky for being born into the bloodline. They have no control over it. Why do they deserve the privileges then? The thing is, they also didn't ask for it. Sure, some might stray, make mistakes, but don't we all? We all are humans. We make mistakes and try to learn from it. My questions are, 1, how do we stop looking up when forward is where we should be looking at? And 2, how do we handle expectations when people put more faith in yourself more than you could? People put more faith in yourself more than you could.
I think probably that second one is, when people put more faith in you than you do. So like if others have more faith in you than you to yourself.
And you give to yourself. Okay, yeah. So how do we stop looking up when forward is where we should be looking? And how do we handle expectations when people look up or put more faith in us than we put in ourselves? Okay. Yeah. Very cool. Once again, Akil, I really like your style of writing. You are very poetic. And you are very, not just well written, but insightful. When you talk about a subject, whenever you ask a question, you always put forth a lot of dialogue first about the inner workings of your mind, how you kind of grasp the reality there, what kind of things you've come to understand and accept, and your own struggles through it. I really appreciate that. I think that's really awesome and insightful and enjoying to read. So yeah, I'm gonna let Joe take it away and see what kind of things he has to say about this subject.
Okay. Well, there are definitely nobles, different kinds. I mean, I guess you could say there are people who were born into nobility. There were people who were elected into nobility, and there have been people that have worked themselves into positions of power that could also be called nobility, where like somebody has built a big company and they stand at the top of it because they worked really hard to get there. So there are different levels, and they all can garner some of our respect, no matter what. And sometimes, I mean, we do kind of get this obsession, and part of it's because of the media. We kind of, these people, generally the nobility, are more in the spotlight than the rest of us, because they, have positions of power. They can make decisions that affect lots and lots of people, and so we kind of, it can be good to pay attention to what they're doing, because what they're deciding might affect us, depending on what country we live in and who it is that we're talking about. sometimes it's just tabloid nonsense that, you read about these people, and it's just like ridiculous. Like, I can remember.
I don't need to learn about their new dog. Okay.
Yeah, right. Or like, okay, so this noble person is a party animal. Big deal. I went through that, so, okay. But so I love your questions, but before I get to the questions, I love the statement in the middle of this where he says, after all, life without darkness is also life without appreciation for how bright light is. So I love that because, if everything is just great all the time and good, everything's all good all the time, that can be a really tough life to live. And you don't really get stronger in a life like that. You see that in people all the time. The people who have had the most difficult challenges in their lives, they grow to be some of the most tremendously loving and caring people that you would ever care to know. People who have had it easy their whole life and everything's just always all good, they turn into spoiled little brats. For the most part. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. If you never have any hardships, then the minute something goes a little bit off for you, you're going to be super upset about it because you have no perspective for challenge. So I love that statement that, sometimes we don't understand how great things are for us until we get hit with some major struggles or major darkness. We don't know how great the light we live in is until we experience the darkness. So I really, really love how you put that, Akil, and thank you for putting that in there. But okay, so to address the first question, how do we stop looking up when forward is where we should be looking at? That's a great question because sometimes like I said before, we can get obsessed with what the nobility in our particular area, our country, or the world in general is doing. And we can get obsessed with that. And then we can totally disregard our own responsibilities because we're too busy being fixated on, this noble person, this high-ranking person. And one of the best ways I've found to do that is to limit the amount of mainstream news you take in. Limit that and try not to pay attention when you go to the grocery store of the newsstands with all the magazines at the checkout lanes. Because a lot of that is just there's so much that's just gossip. Some of it's based in actual events, but most of it's just a gossipy perspective on things. And the news, the mainstream news is kind of getting to be more and more like that. And I don't care if it's, more left leaning or right leaning, whatever perspective. It seems to be getting more gossipy than actual just laying out the facts. It's like, no, this is the fact and this is our perspective on it. And so now we got to like tear this whole thing apart. And then it turns into this big mess and we get all conflicted and upset and, we just get sucked into that conflict. We're kind of attracted to that. But we have interesting enough lives as it is. We can anyway. If you have goals and you're trying to run for something, your life is going to be way interesting without all the nonsense going on in other people's lives. So one of the best ways is like I was reading a Robert Kiyosaki book. He's a business author, and one of his key pieces of advice is mind your own business. If you're going to be successful in anything, if you're going to do anything, you have to mind your own business. And what he means by that is you have to be focused. You got to stay focused on what it is you're doing and almost turn off the stream of information about other people and all their business that's going on. Because most of it's not really relevant to your life. Like Ryan said, oh, they got a new dog. How does that matter in your life? oh, so-and-so married so-and-so, and then they got divorced, and then they adopted different kids from different countries, and blah, 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 blah. And the thing that cracks me up, I think, more than anything, is that we have ascribed in America, we have ascribed nobility to actors and actresses in Hollywood. That cracks me up. Like, what qualifies their opinion on anything? Because they're an actor? Because they're a musician? I mean, well, okay, so here we are, Ryan and I, we're a couple musicians, and what qualifies our opinions on any of this stuff that we talk to you guys about? You know, I guess the thing that mostly would be the question asked is it relevant to you, and is it helpful to you? So if what we do here is helpful to you, then continue to listen. That'd be great. If not, you know, hey, nobody's forcing you to stick around and listen to us. You know, if you find value other places, you know, go get it for sure. But we're glad you're here. And you know, so here, the answer that I would give to this question is mind your own business. When forward is what we should be looking, how do we stop looking up to those people that, you know, society respects? Just get focused on what it is you're about. When you get figured out your purpose, when you start determining that and starting to detect what it is that you've been put on this earth to do, it gets easier and easier and easier, because the more focus you put there, the less time you have for the nonsense of the societal, you know, mumbo jumbo that's going on. So that would be my answer to that. And then number two, how do we handle expectations when people put more faith in us than we put in ourselves? That can be a really tough one, because I fail at this all the time. There are people that have so much faith and confidence in me. There are people that look up to me, and I look at myself and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so messed up. If they knew half of what I really was all about, then they would not respect me at all. You know, but you know, some of this, Ryan knows me fairly well, a lot better than a lot of people. And, you know, I feel like he still likes me, at least. So
I look up to him.
Well, thanks.
Okay. I think he's awesome.
Well, I look up to you, Ryan. So, that is a tough one. So sometimes the two questions are for the two sides, us and them. Yes, absolutely. So if you can turn off the nonsense and get focused on what it is you're all about. And then as far as, you know, when people put more faith in you and they have expectations of you, I think the best thing to do is to just always make a commitment to be the best you can be. And also be willing to forgive yourself when you make a mistake. We've talked about that a lot on Don't Worry Wednesday, the being able to forgive yourself. When you make a mistake, it's going to happen. Everybody does it. You know, we all make mistakes. Most of the time, they're not detrimental to our lives. Mm-hmm. You know, we put a lot of weight on mistakes, and they don't necessarily carry that much weight. It's just a mistake. It's a learning experience. It's something for you to grow through. And when you make a mistake, it's okay. But then you can revive your commitment to doing the best you can, being the best person you can, trying to learn as much as you can so that you can be that best version of yourself. Matthew Kelly, an author, he always talks about being the best version of yourselves.
Love him. He's awesome.
And that's so great. Absolutely. Because that's what we're all about here at BSS. We want to help people be the best version of themselves. We want to help people discover their purpose, discover why they're here, and then live that, because that is the most exciting life you could possibly live. When you're living connected to your purpose, that there is more excitement there than any material thing you could ever buy, any type of house you could own, any type of car you could own. Now, and some people get really fired up about houses and cars, and that's totally fine. But more important than that, the funny thing is, a lot of these people that I know who have achieved that, they've set a goal to get a new house and then they get it. What they find is that's not really all that fulfilling. What's the fulfilling part is if in the pursuit of that material thing, what they did was they discovered their purpose and they started to live their purpose. And the rewards of pursuing their purpose involved being able to buy a nicer house or have a nice car. It was kind of like a little trophy for them continuing to live on purpose and serve more and more people. That's the fulfilling part. And it does not matter the material goods that you acquire. It doesn't matter, what type of a relationship you acquire with a certain person or people or whatever, because you can't control the emotions of others. So you can't necessarily make somebody like you. But if you are living your purpose, you probably won't spend as much time worrying about the expectations of others and how, and whether or not you're living up to those expectations. Because when you realize, hey, this is my purpose, I'm following this, I'm going to make mistakes and it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep going no matter what. You start living like that, and all of this other stuff just becomes noise. It's easy to set aside, and you can maintain that laser focus on where you're headed. And I think that's probably the best I can do to answer those questions. So, Ryan, you probably have much better stuff than I do.
I don't know, but thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. I think, one thing that you were just talking about there, one thing I'll allude on a little bit more is, I think as someone who is a politician or someone who has responsibilities, whether or not they are noble or whatever, we all have responsibilities. We all have people that expect us to do things. We have expectations and so on to worry about from others. Here's something I think that is good to ask yourself. What's more important, doing the right thing or making people like you? Because expectations is the only thing that's about is making people like them. And you can't make everybody like you anyways. So trying to do that route is futile. It's pointless. The only thing you can do is do the right thing. And so what's important there is when you have people expecting all these things from you, just remind yourself, you can only do what you can do. And you can do, hopefully, I think you always have the ability to do what's right. You always have the ability to do what's right. And just doing what's right is all that's required of you. All that you should require of yourself. All that you should be concerned about is doing what's right. Because if you do what's right, then it doesn't matter whether people like you because you did that thing or not. You did what's right. So that kind of throws expectations out the windows, because expectations are nothing more than just what other people want from you, right? That's what they want from you. So that's their selfish desires generally. Sometimes we have people that expect things of us that aren't necessarily selfish. Our parents expect the best from us. They expect, good things from us, expect us to do the right thing. And that's good. But people that don't know us, a lot of times they just are trying to, have expectations that put them in higher powers and so on. And that whole political realm, it's not worth getting involved in. Because it doesn't matter a whole lot of times what other people think about you. What's done is done. And whether you met their expectations or not doesn't change the reality. So expectations can be good, but most of the time, if they don't motivate us to do the right thing, then the expectations are wrong. And then you just have to do away with them. Because if the expectations are there and they motivate you to do the right thing, if they motivate you to push on, then the expectations are good. They're a good thing. But if they motivate you in the opposite direction about doing something wrong, if the expectations make you go like, oh, I want to, do something I would never do, or think something that's bad just to make these people happy, that sort of thing, then you know that you're You really shouldn't be doing those things. I mean, I think you know that. It's pretty obvious. But I think just saying that out loud helps put us in a direction in that one. Sometimes you know the answer, but then until you actually like say it out loud, you're like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, yeah, that's the way it is for me, at least a lot of times. But anyways, as for the other thing, how do we stop looking up and instead look forward? I would say that it can be good to look up to people, because you look up to people for a reason. When you look up to somebody, a lot of times it's because they have a specific attribute that you like. And what I've said a lot of times is, if you like something about somebody, that's good. Try to do that thing yourself. Like, you might see a person and you're like, wow, they're really good at just making conversations with strangers. I wish I could do that. Well, you look up to them, and that's a good thing that you look up to them for that, because that's a talent, that's an ability that they acquired, and that takes courage. And then the next step is, now that you've figured out the things that you like in somebody else, that's also telling yourself what you would like to see in yourself. When you see something that's valuable in somebody else and you say, man, I wish I had that, a lot of times what you're telling yourself is, that's the kind of person I want to become. I want to do that kind of thing. And so what's important is not only to look up to somebody, but then to use that to look forward, like you were saying, to make give yourself the chance to do the same thing. Give yourself the chance to grow in the same way and acquire the same things that you see in them. Certain things you can't do, obviously, like, oh, I look up to this person because they are, because they were born into the kingdom family or whatever, and you can't acquire that. And so you might look up to them because you could still look up to them for certain issues, like, wow, they've got so much responsibility. I admire them for holding on and dealing with all of that. But beyond that, if you look up to them and just saying, like, maybe look up to them in the sense of not necessarily jealousy, but maybe something like jealousy, where it's a negative sort of thing. Jealousy isn't always negative, but maybe like envious, if you envy them because of they were born into the family or whatever. I think that kind of looking up to them obviously is not helpful at all. And then I would go back to what Joe said, limiting how much media you intake on the news and politics and all of that kind of stuff is really helpful. You said, I've been shattering my reflections in the mirror lately. This topic is in honor of him. Oh, okay. This topic is in honor of him. The pieces seem to be missing. Ah, interesting. Envy is the word. Yeah, envy. Yeah, and you might look up to somebody on something that you can never achieve. And I suppose we all do that from time to time. But even that can help us get somewhere. Looking up to someone isn't always bad. Sometimes it's good to find people to look up to because that can motivate you. They did it, so I'm going to try to do it too. That sort of mentality can help you out a lot. And also you can speak to the people that you look up to and say, hey, how did you get there? What did you do to get good at that? They can help you out like that too. So looking up to people can be a good thing. But yeah, how do you remove the separation of powers though? I don't think that is something that we are necessarily capable of. It is a figment of our imagination in a way. There's no physical construct there. It's all just a part of, how would you say, a mental reality of metaphysics? I don't know. We've placed people in power in our realms based off of decisions, and none of it is actually physically a part of reality, but it is a part of reality in the sense of we have to listen to what they say or we go to jail or that sort of thing. I mean, there are laws and we can break them, but that doesn't mean that those laws should be broken. And those laws a lot of times can be good things. So it's just an interesting part of humankind, human's reality, part of humanity in general. We've always pretty much had hierarchies and leaders, people that we follow. pretty much any culture ever, there's some sort of leader, or even if maybe there's multiple leaders, that's always been a part of humankind. It's been interesting. And humankind is one of the only races like that. I think that's a really distinct, unique thing about humanity. And I don't think it's meant to be a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing when you put bad people in power. But that's just what it is. If you put the most holy, most incredible, most nice, most kind, most loving person in the world in power, then that's actually a good thing. We've seen things like that in the past. I mean, when you have people who are generous, who are charitable, who are kind, and they are in leadership, they do really good things for a lot of people. People who are good, who have a lot of money, do good things with money. People who are bad, who have a lot of money, do bad things with money, and they do a lot of bad. So, and the political scheme is still the same exactly as that, I think rather than trying to, now obviously this is impossible, but rather than trying to destroy governmental powers and differences in class and all of that kind of thing, because that's always going to be there. There's always going to be a difference in class. You've got the poor people, you've got the rich people, you've got the people who are, born into a certain bloodline, or, people who have special privileges just because they met the right people or they've taken a specific job. You'll always have that in humankind, I believe. But instead of worrying about that and saying it's not fair, I think what's more important is getting into the minds and hearts of those people, whether they are in a higher class or a lower class, because any one of them can make a huge difference and a great amount of good. There are people who are well off in money, and then they decide to sell all of their money, all of their goods, and then take all the money they got from all, everything, and give it to the poor and become poor themselves and live among the poor. And then they do an insane amount of good in the poor community because they live with the poor, and they help the poor out by being one of them, by bonding with them, by lifting them up, by helping them get jobs, by doing all these things because they know they can. A lot of times, people who are put down so many times, they don't realize that they can lift themselves up, need somebody to go down and help pick them up. And so no matter who you are, I think it doesn't really matter how powerful you are, what place you are, what family you were born into, what gifts you have. The most important thing is, where's your heart? And if you can help people to put their heart in the right place, then we'll all have different lives to live. And life is never going to be fair or equal to anybody. Every life is going to be different. Every life has its gifts, and they are very different from each other. But if you can get the people who are higher up to have bigger hearts, I think then that could do a lot of good, a lot more good than trying to tear down the good people. Because you have envy, which is, what we talked about before. Envy is like the desire to do harm to somebody who has something better than you or something that you want. And that's not very good. But if you have the desire to help those people and move their heart to become better people, then you'll be helping not just them, but everybody that they impact too. So rather than tearing down the power, we should be working together to lift the power up in the right way, and encourage them to do the right things. I think that's probably the best solution there in that realm. You said, maybe I'm biting more than I can chew. Wait, you said something before that. Hold on. You said, hold on. You have.
It looks like he's got a rival. They completed each other, but it's saddening. I can't carry his piece with me. He's the one that earned to be himself the most. I want to be his friend. Complete. So yeah, I want to be him and me, but I can't seem to keep up. So you got a rival you can't seem to keep up with. And that can definitely be frustrating. But sometimes, sometimes we can forget about the fact that we have a place to fill. We have something we can do. Maybe my job isn't to be quite as good as the person next to me. I will never, ever be as good at writing static P songs as Ryan.
But you'll always be better at writing CDVNL songs than me.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, and we all have our gifts and we all have our struggles, like Ryan was saying. I love that because, there are some people that have been born with no arms and no legs. Talk about fairness.
Yeah.
Think that's fair? That's totally not fair.
And sometimes we look up to them and we're like, wow.
Yeah. They tend to be some of the most inspiring people.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about being unfair. Go to like a burn care unit, like a pediatric burn care unit in a hospital. These kids that were stuck in a fire. I mean, it can be mortifying. And it's not fair at all. They didn't choose that. Nobody chose that for them. It just happened. Mm-hmm. But those challenges are strengthening those people so much, and they can turn into such an inspiration to the rest of the world. And you can too, with whatever set of challenges that you have. You can use those to strengthen yourself and fill the niche that you will fill.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all unique, like Ryan was talking about. We are all unique.
Yeah. I remember actually meeting somebody who had 3rd-degree burns all over his body. His face melted, and all of that. Like literally his face melted. His ear was fused to his face and all of that kind of stuff. It was really, really intense. Now this was after the burns had subsided, but the pain is said that the areas become extremely sensitive. And so it's kind of like a sunburn always, kind of like that. So whenever his face got touched, it felt pain. But he loved swimming because the water always made his body feel really nice. And so I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with him. I only spent one day with him. And this was a long time ago. But I remember I was like, at first, the first time I met him, like my mom told me like he had burns, and it was like she told me like a minute before I met him. And so it was like she told me about it, and then we opened up the door and to like a hotel room they were staying in. And then I saw him and I was like, whoa, like I didn't know what to say. It was like the first person I ever met that had all of these burns and stuff. And he was super nice. He was the kind of guy that you just wanted to be around, even though like, and you didn't care. You totally like did not care about, you just felt bad for him. You're like, man, that's so unfair that he got burned. Like, that's not cool. But his attitude was always on top of it. He was such a nice guy. And so it was really cool meeting him. And yeah, it in a way, it's kind of like inspiring because you see somebody who has everything against them sometimes and they're sticking it through. And it's just like, wow, But
well, yeah, and he really understands the light. Like in the middle of Akil's statement here, he really understands how bright the light is because he's experienced such darkness. He's experienced such hardship. So now he has a whole new perspective on what good is, and it's so much better because he had gone through that dark time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true for a lot of people who go through those experiences. But yeah, I mean, everybody's life, everybody's story is a different story. And that's beautiful. And sometimes you might look at them and say, well, that story doesn't look so great at the moment, but that doesn't mean the story is done with or over with, or that you even see every part of it. Sometimes you only catch a glimpse of it and you don't see all the different lives that are impacted throughout the story and the way that it's changed the story of other people. We're not all supposed to be, I think that it's okay to chase after people and have a competition where both people are growing to become better. I think that's a good spirit to be in. Lots of people improve and get better because of competitive rivals and stuff like that. It's really cool to see that, like kind of camaraderie.
Sure.
But also I think it's important to remember that, if the other person is, getting better in the field or whatever than you are, and it's hard to keep up, that's not like you're doing a bad job. you're still doing a good job and you're still moving farther than you would if you had no competition. And in fact, it might be because of your competition with them that they're doing so well, and they wouldn't be doing so well if it wasn't for you. And if you talk to them, they might even say that. And they'll be like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm only here where I am now because you lifted me up to this point. Like, seriously, you'd be surprised at how true that could be. And so even though you might feel like you're doing nothing, you don't realize how you're lifting other people up around you and all the lives you're affecting around you. We're not all called to be the same person, or we're not all called to be the best. Because no one is the best, because we're all equal here. We just have different lives and different stories to tell, and different parts of different stories. You know, a lot of times we root for the person on bottom anyways, right? We see the underdog and we're like, man, I love that guy. He's got nothing going for him. Man, I love that guy, right? We always cheer for the underdog. We always cheer for the underdog. And so sometimes we all have to be the underdog at something.
Yeah.
And people will cheer for us.
And being the underdog can be a great motivator to work hard. In fact, I just had this reiterated to me today at martial arts class. Our instructor highlighted a very high level student, a black belt, who she has competed, and she's a world champion in XMA. She's world champion in multiple different areas. And he was talking about this young lady. I think she's like 13 or 14 or something like that now. But when she first started, he said she was the most uncoordinated student he's ever had. And he's been teaching martial arts for a decade, maybe longer. You know, he's been doing it a long time. And he said, she is the most uncoordinated person that I ever had in any class. And now she's a world champion. World champion in double bow staff form. Which, you know, I mean, now you got two big long bow staffs, you know, and you're twirling around and throwing them in the air and doing all kinds of stuff.
Double bow staff? Like you're actually holding, wow.
Yeah, like you've got two and they're together sometimes. And then sometimes you got one in each hand and you're flipping them around and doing it. It was amazing what she was doing. But yeah, but from starting at being at the very bottom of the barrel, like Ryan was talking about, like the most uncoordinated student he ever had, and now world champion. I mean, and that happens. You can totally do that. And Akil, you said on here, you're a bit narcissistic. He's gone. One of the many. So if I'm the only one that remembers them, I need to surpass them and make the world remember their talents. So yes, that can be a tremendous motivator to work hard. And if it motivates you to work hard, great. And if it motivates you to become the best you can be so that you can bring the remembrance of them to the world, that is tremendous fuel you can use as you grow who you are. Just don't lose sight of who you are, and you can use their memory as fuel. You can use the goal of bringing their memory to the world as fuel for you. It can keep you going when times get tough. You know, you can always remember that, and then it can just like spark another, you know, help you hit another gear and, you know, move forward even faster. But yeah, don't lose sight of who you are in that process. It's really easy to do. But if you can use that as fuel, that's tremendous fuel. That's absolutely tremendous. And it's very, very noble. You are acting as a noble by doing that.
Yeah.
So, Akil, thank you so much. I mean, wow.
You're an awesome person, Akil.
You are, and thank you for your post. Thank you so much for all of your posts. The way you word them is tremendous. And yeah.
Well, I guess
hopefully some of that helped.
Yeah, I hope so too. If not, sorry.
Come back next time. Maybe we'll help you with a better one.
Yeah,
we'll help you in a better way next time. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Let's see. So has anybody posted anything in the chat?
I don't know. I don't think so. Princess hasn't posted anything, so I'm gonna go with no.
Okay.
I guess the next one would be Square One from Akil as well.
Mm-hmm. We totally could do that, or we could also.
Or we could also go to a word from our sponsor.
We can go to a word from our sponsor.
Yeah.
What's the word from our sponsor?
I don't know.
I screwed up more.
Nice.
Thanks. The word from our sponsor this week comes from Ryan, because I did it last week.
Well, I was told the word from our sponsor came from Science Rocks this week, but I could be wrong. Science, did you get the same memo?
Actually, Science Rocks said something really profound. I want to read it out loud because it was in the chat, so everybody had the chance to read it, but I want to read it out loud. I just got to find it again.
Go for it.
I loved it. The news isn't news. It's an advertising business that seeks to make money. What makes money in advertising? Views. What attracts views? Controversy. The news is a way to keep your attention. That is so true.
That is very true.
So true. I really appreciate you posting that, Science Rocks, because, yep, you're absolutely right. It's just there to drum up emotion, to keep us hooked in, so we stay for the advertisement. And then, it's always the advertisements for the prescription drugs.
That's right.
It's so funny because they're like, hey, look at these images of people like canoeing and having a great life and gardening and loving each other and all this kind of stuff. And while we talk about, if you take this medicine, you may become a serial killer. It may cause serious mental side effects. And the effects of this medicine may be worse than the effects of your actual condition that you're treating with this medication. Talk to your doctor today.
If life isn't bad enough, try this pill. It'll wreck you a new one. So apparently Science Rocks didn't get the memo. He didn't know that it was his turn to do the a word from the sponsor. So I'll pick up on the slack, of our whoever was supposed to announce that, whoever was supposed to get that message to him.
Well, I just did a prescription drug commercial.
What?
I just did a prescription drug commercial.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'll let. There you go. That's it. You're welcome.
Oh man, that's awesome. I know Joe is here. Slightly above average Joe.
Hey, that's right.
Yeah, he just posted something.
Independence Fueling.
Independence Fuel Company. Oh yes,
that's great.
Yes, that's my brother's company. Actually, I've funny. I will do a little mini spoiler. We're Slightly Above Average Joe, Joseph Bohan, and I are working on a new show that we're hoping is going to come out in January. And we were working on pre-production. I had a sweatshirt on for my brother's company. He runs a fuel distribution business, so he trucks fuel around the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And it's funny. We're like, hey, this show is brought to you by Independence Fuel Distributor Incorporated. We got gas. Hey, Akil, how do you know about that? That's what we actually call it. It's the Double Cup of Joe show.
Yeah, Double Cup of Joe. Double Cup of Joe show. I think we have talked about it a little bit on previous streams, not really revealing anything about it, but other than its name.
Yep. So yeah, we're in production now. So we're working on getting it ready for you guys, and hopefully we'll start releasing it in January once we get stuff edited and produced and all that fun stuff. So.
Is Jono here, Akil? Hey, Corrosive. I don't think Jono is here, unfortunately. But Jono did have something like a long while back, but Jono hasn't been here for a while. So maybe hopefully one day they'll come back and return to our our loving arms. But until then, we will await their coming.
Yes. It is nice to see Highly Corrosive again.
Star.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So you want to tackle one of Joe's?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Have a wonderful sleep time when you go, Akil.
Yeah, Princess. It is not a live show. I mean, it's live in the fact that we recorded it live.
True. Everything's recorded live, though.
But it will be edited.
Digital.
Yeah. So, but it's hopefully it's some good stuff. We're definitely having fun making it. So
I think that's important. If you're having fun making it, it makes it more fun for everybody else to watch. Usually.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's see. We did
record alive. Yeah. We are alive during our recording sessions. Yes, we're not dead. So which is the next?
Well, we have a few here. And I think we did the one about confronting people when they do something wrong.
Yep. So the next one would be, is being creative something you can learn?
Is being creative something you can learn? And thank you, Joe, for posting this. If you'll notice, when you go to bss.studio and you see the slightly above average Joe, here's the question, by the way, or the topic. I'm going to just post it in here just so it's there. You guys can go to it. Yeah, you'll note he's a level 14.
Oh my gosh. He's level 14.
He's higher than me and Ryan. There's only one person he's not higher than. He's not higher than Jesse.
Wait, maybe it was the old website. What about like Nixel and Carr?
I think he's surpassed them.
You think so? I bet he has.
I think so.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. So slightly above average Joe, Joseph Bohan posts on the website, is being creative something you can learn? He says, another question for you. I'm an accountant, and a good one at that. And being creative tends to put you in jail in my profession. It's very true.
Well said.
So for things that aren't accounting, is there a way I can learn to be creative?
Nice.
The answer is yes.
There you go.
Ryan, can you expound on that?
Expound on the yes. My opinion differs. No. I like what you said about being creative in accounting tends to put people in jail. I think that's brilliant. That's a brilliant joke. And I wish you could be more creative with money. I think that money is an interesting system. And being creative with it does tend to put you in bad places, unfortunately.
Unless you belong to the specific group of people that their job is to create money. They're creative with the money because they create it out of nothing.
Right, and then they ruin the economy for everybody else.
Yeah.
So you should put them in jail, but it doesn't.
We could go on and on about that for a long time, but that's a different topic.
Yeah. So how do you learn to be creative? I think we talked about this a little bit before by chance on another topic last stream, or maybe it was 2 streams ago. Either way. And that is boredom. Now, while you can be inspired to become creative by watching other people's creative or watching other people create or looking at things that other people have created, and that can help you become creative. I think a lot of times boredom is a very essential part to creativity. It doesn't have to be boredom per se. Like I don't really generally ever get bored, but the concept of doing the things that you would be bored doing, most people would be bored doing, which is sitting there doing nothing. Sitting there doing nothing can be very constructive for your brain, because not only is it relaxed, it's trying to find something to do. And out of trying to find something to do, it can become more and more creative. If you fill your mind with entertainment all the time, or, if any time you feel like, oh, I'm not doing anything, and you start picking up an object and playing with it, looking at your phone, or going on your computer, or watching videos, or just talking to somebody or whatever, anything to fill your mind. In those scenarios, those are all good things, but to spend some time not doing those things when you have that ability and choosing to sit there in silence instead can help you in your creative habits, can help your brain become more creative. If you look at a child, we see children as some of the most creative things in existence. I know that I have a nephew and some nieces, and my nephew is incredible with Legos. He spends a lot of his time with Legos, and so when he gets an idea, he can just create it with Legos. And so the more time you put into a field, the more creative you can be. But not only is he more creatively talented in making objects with Legos than me, he comes up with ideas faster than me about what to create. His mind is young and he is influenced by the things around him very much so. Different movies are like, oh, I saw The Flash and let's make this thing and let's make this vehicle or Batman's vehicle or whatever it is, But beyond that, he also has a lot of time where he's not doing anything other than just being forced to sit there with the toys he has in front of him. He's not necessarily being entertained with movies and TV constantly. He's being given this chance to sit there with his Legos and figure out what he wants to do. And the more he does that, the faster his brain can think up things to create with it. So if you want to become creative in anything, you have to pick your field. I think that's important. What do you want to become creative in? If it's just imagining things, just having an imagination that can run wild and create stories and so on, spend time doing that specific thing. Spend time sitting there and creating stories. Maybe start with a friend, doing it with a friend, or maybe just by yourself. And likewise, if it's music, you start by playing music and making it up. I could say my brother and I, we are both musically talented, but we took very different paths. My brother is really good at sight reading. And what that is he can see music for the first time and just play it like he played it 100 times already. I would have to play the piece over and over and over and over and over to get it skill level that he starts with the first time he reads that sheet of music. That's how good he is in that field, because whenever he practiced, whenever he was at home, he would practice 2 hours a day almost. And he loved to practice the art of sight reading. He liked to flip to a new thing he'd never read before and start playing it. He'd like to find things he'd never played before and then just look at it and play it. And so became really good at that. However, I, on the other hand, took up a different talent. I didn't enjoy playing other people's pieces of music. So I like to sit at home for several hours and make up my own music. So what I would do is I would just play around with different notes until I played something that I thought sounded cool. And then I would play it like 4,000 times in a row because it didn't get boring to me, but it got boring to everybody else. Like, dude, stop playing that and say anything over and over. Well, I made this up. It's good. But anyways, that's how you get good at creating. Creating is a talent that is like any other. It's something that you get better at. Instead of spending time reading music for the first time and getting good at reading, you can get good at creating by forcing yourself to create. And it's something that you do over and over and over and become really good at. And so I became more of a creative. Now, my brother later tried to write music, and he was very disappointed in himself, I think, because he would tell me like, man, this is terrible. Like, I made this, but it's not very good. And I was like, it's all right. Like, it's a song, but he didn't have as much talent in the area just because he didn't spend time doing that specific thing. It didn't mean he was bad at it. It just meant that he didn't have as much talent in the area. And he could have gotten that talented in that area if he had the passion to spend the time in that area, like I did. So that's what I'd have to say about creativity. I'll pass it on to Joe, see what he has to say.
Yeah, well, no, you're absolutely right. Practicing being creative is how you get good at it. Practicing anything is how you get good at anything. And I love what Princess said, but it can be annoying to those around you sometimes. Yes. learning anything can be annoying to those around you because, especially if it's a musical instrument of any kind, because, you're always going to have that time in the beginning when you're terrible at it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Always. Like I always think it's hilarious when I hear about somebody who owns cats and they decide to start playing the oboe.
Wait, you've heard of this many times?
Yeah, I've heard of this multiple times. And the cats just hate it. They crawl up the walls and try and get away, and it's just nuts. Like, I mean, for some reason the oboe does
That's
that.
hilarious. That's awesome. That's great. So I want to write a story about somebody who carries around an oboe he's got cat allergy, and he has to carry around an oboe with him because it's a great, it's like the person that carries around garlic for the vampires, except for
right.
It's for the cats.
Yeah, it's a cat deterrent. It's also an everybody else deterrent at some point too, because you have to be bad at it. You can't like if you played it beautifully, like an oboe is supposed to sound when you hear an oboe solo, which is one of the most beautiful sounding instruments when played properly. But just in the beginning, it's just awful. It's like a violin too, just scraping across those strings, and then the drums might not necessarily sound bad, but it's just annoying because it's loud. Like anything. But yeah, so you just practice. But I'll tell you this, Joe, also, one thing that can help with creativity is to think about what is going to make it easier for you to do whatever you're doing. Because creativity, a lot of times when we think of creativity, we always think of arts and artisticness and music and visual arts and poetry and writing and video making and these kinds of things, photography. We think creativity in relation to the arts.
I'd say problem solving too.
Yeah, but absolutely. There's creativity all around us. The camera that is recording me right now is the result of a creative process that took what was already existing before and they said, how can we improve on this? And they got creative to make it better. The computer screens I'm looking at, that was part of a creative process. The software we're using to stream this was part of the creative process. Somebody had to code this and they had to come up with how they were going to do it. The template that was put into OBS was created by, I think, Ryan, you created this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's creative, right there. And Jesse. Yep. So there's all this creativity all around us all the time. And everything that we have is the result of somebody being creative. And the reason they got creative was because they thought to themselves, hey, I can make this better than it is. There's a void here that I can fill. There's something I can fix. Every time you get an update for your app on your phone, somebody got creative to fix a bug in an app or to improve the app or change the way it looked, because they thought it was going to be better. And sometimes they've failed miserably, in my opinion.
So I don't do updates.
I've had apps that were great and then they had an update and it wrecked it.
Yeah.
But so even in accounting, you can be creative. Somebody in accounting got creative to invent accounting software or to consult with software manufacturers to create accounting software that would fit their needs. So you can be creative in anything. And there's a great statement: necessity is the mother of invention. And if you know what that means that, anytime there was an invention made, it was because somebody needed to make something. You look at the cotton gin, one of the oldest mechanical inventions that known to man, one of the things that they say sparked the Industrial Revolution, it was the cotton gin. It was because they wanted to be able to get, I think it was because they wanted to get they wanted to separate the cotton from the husks and the seeds and just, turn this thing, and then it separates the part they want from the cotton plant from the rest of the plant. So they made this machine that then did that. And that was a creative process too. So all of that creativity is everywhere. And the more you can think of things that people might like or need, or that you might like or need, then your brain can go to work figuring out how to make that happen. And you may not be able to do it on your own. You may need to enlist the help of an expert in a field. You know, if you think a certain type of software would be better with a certain feature, and you're not a software developer, you might need to find a software developer that you can tell about your issue, and then work together with them in order to create it. But so, yeah, I think you can be creative in anything.
Well, I think one thing I might add on to that is you have to allow yourself to you have to allow yourself to be creative. You have to allow yourself to experiment. You have to allow yourself to spend time experimenting. Like, here's a drink. You can't see what's inside of it, but it's essentially a horchata. That's a malt. It's a malt horchata.
Now I made what horchata is.
Okay, so a horchata is milk, cinnamon, and sugar, and it's all together. All right, it's a Mexican thing. But then I made it a malt, and I put also like protein powder in it, and so like I just make drinks up all the time. I put all sorts of different stuff in my drink, and I create drinks that probably no one else, maybe other people have made before, but I've never heard of it. And I make it all my own, and I'm making a new invention, a new drink. But you have to allow yourself to experiment with it because it might turn out bad. But a lot of times you'll find out it's not bad, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the way it is with food. But you have to allow yourself. So a lot of people are really creative with food, but they don't ever want to try something that they might not like. So you have to be willing to take the next step after the process of making an idea up to actually pursue it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, sorry for the interruption.
No, absolutely. I was pretty much done anyway. So that was the perfect timing for you to interrupt me rudely.
I'm so sorry for being so rude. Next time, get a different co-host.
I couldn't do these shows without you, Ryan. You hold it all together. And, you know,
I'm not the glue.
With Waddles back there, Waddles is the glue.
Who's Waddles?
You call him, but his name is actually Waddles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-mm. No. Mm-hmm. This guy?
Yeah, see? Waddles.
Yeah, I'm petting his eyeball.
Yeah, that's Waddles, actually.
My pet is just right on the eyeball. Oh, that's so nice. Look how he's so happy. Mm-hmm. That's his name.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So is this okay? I'm seeing something from Golden Dragon Play. Is this a question?
What? Perhaps. Golden Dragon Play. So many people. Okay, so many people here know most of my stories. Since the darkest episode, I have flashbacks of. I got used to them, but they got worse. They're getting better again now, but I fear them getting worse enough to overwhelm me again. And that this time I can't stop myself. I don't know how to fight them anymore. That's from Drachi, Golden Dragon Play. Excuse me. I suppose that's a question or a concern that we could do.
I'm not sure. I would need clarification on the
background.
The story. Yeah. Many people know most of my story. I would need to be reminded.
Yeah, I feel the same. I'm sure once you I'm sure if you start talking about it, I'll be like, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. But I do need a little bit of a little help to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
who this feeling
guy people are talking about. I think whoever they are, they're lonely. They're lonely, and I think they do paperwork. I think they might be an owl too. But anyways, this is not Waddles, the lonely paperwork owl. I don't put my owl through that kind of work. I don't make my owl do paperwork. That'd be awful.
Yeah.
They would never get done. Owls can't write.
How do you know?
Okay. Owls that can't write can't write.
That's right.
That's right. See?
That's true.
Okay, so yeah, dealing with flashbacks.
Mm-hmm. Flashbacks can be really tough.
Mm-hmm.
I have those sometimes while I'm driving. You know, I'm working and I'm driving because I drive when I work. And sometimes they're just, okay, here we go. So I don't really want to recall everything again. I totally understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was emotionally dependent on a person, and this person abused me emotionally to the point where I wanted to end everything. Yes.
Okay.
That is so tough. And to have flashbacks is kind of normal, unfortunately, in that type of situation when it's traumatic. It's fairly common to relive those experiences, and even if you don't consciously relive it, even if it doesn't take you back to that moment when the abuse was going on, you know, you can still bear the effects of it, and it can affect the way you treat other people. It can affect the way your days go in general. It can affect the way you do work. It can affect a lot of things about you. And that is such a great lesson in why it's so important to treat other people well. And to live by the golden rule. The golden rule is to do unto others as you would have others do unto you. So however you would want to be treated by other people, that's how you should treat other people. And we all fail in that regard, because we have our own perspective. We look out at the world from our personal lens. We don't take into account other people's perspectives on the world. So we end up misusing people. We end up using people, even, you know, just the very fact that we are using people at all sometimes is a form of misuse and could be a form of abuse. So we're not giving people the dignity they deserve. And it sounds like that's what was happening here in your situation, Drachi, that, you know, whoever this person wasn't treating you with the dignity that you deserve just by existing. So I'm so sorry that you've had to deal with that pain, and I'm so sorry that it was traumatic enough to have these flashbacks come back again and again and again. One awesome thing is that our minds can be the sum of our experiences to some degree. So the more experiences you have that are good, the more experiences you have that are fulfilling, the more experiences you have that are happy, if you can continually stack those experiences up, over time, they can begin to drown out the negative. So that's one thing that's possible to do. And they don't have to be actual experiences. You can imagine them. So that's one thing you can do. You can kind of play around in that realm, and you can start to stack up good experiences. But while you do that, we've talked about this before. And this, depending on how severe the situation was, and this sounds like it was pretty severe, this may be increasingly difficult to do. But forgiveness is the route to healing. Your personal healing in this situation is going to be directly tied to your ability to forgive the person who mistreated you. You don't have to go seek them out and tell them to their face that you forgive them. Sometimes that's appropriate, sometimes it's not. But just in your heart, if you can experience the forgiveness and understand, most of the time people do things and they don't realize what it is they're doing. And many times they're just replaying something that they feel is appropriate. Sometimes people think that this is how I'm supposed to treat other people because I saw my mom treat my dad this way, or I saw my dad treat my mom this way, or I saw this happen this way, and so that's the proper way to do this. They might not even know that they're doing it. It just might be a knee-jerk reaction for them. And they might not even be thinking about it. Or they might be. Either way, for you to heal through this experience, one of the most powerful things you can do is learn how to forgive. Learn how to forgive them for what they did. And that's the source of so much of our pain. I'm convinced. I've been reconvinced and reconvinced and reconvinced of this fact through multiple different areas of my life. Whenever I'm feeling frustrated about something, I generally know it's because I am upset with another person because I perceive that they have mistreated me. And maybe they have, and maybe it's all in my head, but a lot of times it's because they actually have, and I need to forgive them. And when I finally am able to, sometimes it's a process that takes a long time. Sometimes I forgive them for a moment and then it all comes rushing back in, and then I'm back in the frustration again. But that forgiveness gives me that momentary relief before I'm back in it. And then if I can remind myself to do it again and to continually practice that forgiveness until I'm finally able to let go. That is such a healing process. That's, I know we've talked about it before, and I apologize if I sound like a broken record, but it's such a powerful thing to do. Forgiveness does more for you than it does for the person you're forgiving, because it heals you and it puts you back on track to, the life you're supposed to live and to be the best version of yourself. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, because I'm sure he's got something to say that's profound and wise and awesome.
I don't know. I don't know. This is a hard subject, because when you're dealing with something, you could say it's like PTSD. We all have different forms of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, where we get flashbacks or whatever. We go through a scenario, or even maybe we're just sitting there and all of a sudden something, we get a flashback and a bad feeling comes. I think one thing to do that helps, besides what Joe said, because he said a lot of helpful things there, I think. One thing that you can do that can be helpful is your mind what your mind is doing is it's a reflex, right? It's a response. So you have a thought, and then your mind responds to that thought with a series of emotions and feelings, and even physical things as well, possibly. Some people that have PTSD physically break down. But anyways, what's happening is you have a thought, and then your mind is responding to that thought with feelings. And so what you have to do here is remember that that's part of your subconscious mind. Whenever you have a response to something that's immediate and you're not necessarily controlling, that's something that's written into your subconscious mind. And so I know we just talked about this last stream, I think, but your subconscious mind is basically just a conglomeration, if you will, of habits. Your subconscious mind basically is something that creates and executes habits. So that includes things like how you ride your bike, how you know how to move your hand when you're brushing your teeth, remembering to brush your teeth before you go to bed every night. Things like how you respond when someone calls you an idiot. You might have noticed some people, when they're called an idiot, they respond differently than you do. Some people, like, you call them an idiot and they get really offended. Some people laugh. Some people just sit there and don't say anything and they just stare at you. Those are all just different responses. A lot of them, their first emotional response. And then you have things like even who we're attracted to. Why we're attracted to those certain types of people, whether they be male or female, whether they be people that wear earrings or don't wear earrings. All of those things are generally a part of our subconscious mind. They're a part of us. But what's cool about all of that is you can create habits that are good and you can write over habits that are bad. Now, there are certain things that will always be with us, and that's just how it is. There are certain things that, while you can create habits that replace them in majority, they will always be there to a slight degree. They always have the chance of coming back, just because that's naturally human nature. That doesn't mean that it's futile to overwrite them. But what we find is that when we overwrite them, things get a lot better. For people, things are a lot better more often. And then only every once in a great while do things stir up. And then when they do, it's easier for us to turn it off. When we're having a sort of violent reaction to something and we don't like it, what we have to do is take a step back and remember everything I just said, and just remember, like, I can have control over this. I don't want to feel this way. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fight against it. And so what I mean by fight against it is if you think about this thing and it makes you feel bad, think about all the opposite things in that nature. So if someone used you, right? Now, take that moment when you feel that pain, take that moment and confront it and say, yes, I was used and it felt terrible. But let me show you about all the times people haven't used me. Let me show you about all the times people gave to me. People chose to suffer for me. Like my mom. She didn't have to feed me every single day since I was born, but she did. And here I am. I used her, if anything, but she gave to me that. And you can and even take that person that used you, and you can run through scenarios where you can kind of say, yeah, that's true, but these other things also happen, and try to build in positive feedback. Because then when you get these flashbacks, your instinct, you're training your mind to be really fast at countering it. Because I'm not saying that the flashbacks won't ever happen again. What I'm saying is that you can get really fast at overcoming the flashbacks when they do happen. So when they happen, you have your initial response of, ooh, I don't like this feeling. You can take that and say, ooh, I don't like this. Wait, no, thanks, but no thanks. I'm pretty good here, actually. I don't need to feel bad. Everything's okay. And you get faster and faster at turning that bad feeling and just moving the bad feeling away. Because that's what emotional control is. That's emotional intelligence, some people say. Emotional control is basically just having the response of an emotion and then immediately going to your conscious mind, which is the mind that chooses things, and saying, how do I actually want to feel about this? And is this feeling the right thing? How should I act upon this feeling? And should I instead go against it and think about more positive things? Or should I dwell in it and sink into it and think about all the negative things that make me feel more of this emotion? I think you know the answer to that. But we have to practice it over and over and over and over and over so that it becomes a habit. So become really fast at it. And it's not easy. I'm sure you've heard the song When the Darkness Comes. That song is written about that time when the darkness is there and you just feel like you want to sit in it. Because sometimes that happens. Sometimes that darkness comes over us and we just break down. We're just like, yeah, but I just want to sit in this darkness, even though even though I know it's not good for me, even though right now I know I'm supposed to get up and do something better than sit in it. I'm just going to sit here and sulk in the darkness and wait for things to get better. And they never do. And it just feels like crap. And that's why you don't betray yourself for the darkness. You don't betray yourself for it. Because the darkness only comes to give you hell. Because that's really the truth. And the darkness, for some reason, once it comes over us, we just feel like we're almost attracted to it because we want it to be okay. And we're also like deprived of any energy to do anything else. We're like, oh, I don't want to do anything now. I just want to sit here and just sit in it, you know? But you gotta go against it, because the more you go against it, the better you're going to be at going against it, the easier it's going to be. But the more times you decide to let it take over you, the more times you're instilling that action as a habit, the more times you are making it easier to become there, to take that as an action. The more times, see, people say it's hard to change, but the truth is we're always changing. We're always changing. Every action, every time you make a decision, you're changing in that way. So you're starting to create a new habit. So if you if you do it enough times where you just kind of like, well, I don't feel like doing anything, so I'm not going to do anything, then you're going to make it, you're creating a bad habit for yourself. And I know that's hard because everyone does it. Don't hit it, don't hurt, don't beat yourself up for that, because everyone's done that. Trust me, everyone's done that. It's just something we've all done. All right. But if you create a new habit, just by deciding to go the other way once, you start yourself on a change. You start yourself towards changing. And the more you do that, the more you take action against it every single time, the easier and easier it will become. And in fact, the more and more you will not want to do the wrong thing. Because then when you're confronted with, I guess I could just sit here, again, like I used to. And then your brain will be like, yeah, but that's not good, and your brain will fight for you more and more, a lot better. Now we all make mistakes here and there. Eventually you'll make the mistake of deciding to sit in it again someday, but you can always get back up on your feet, and it's always worth it every time when you do. So it's all about creating that habit. And I think whenever this flashback comes, again, try to remember to forgive them. If you've already done that, then the next step is to just move your brain forward, because your brain is stuck on it. And in order to move your brain forward, you got to program it differently. And the best way to program something is through repetition. Or at least when it comes to our brains. A lot of times we wish we could just think one thought and everything be good from then on. And once in a while, that can happen. Once in a while, that does happen. A new concept comes into our brain that we never heard of before. And we're like, whoa, everything's different now. But most of the time, we just have to fight through it over and over on a daily basis. And then, a couple of weeks down the road, it'll feel like nothing. It'll feel like it never even plagued us. It'll be like, I remember when that used to happen to me. It was like nothing now. Like, I don't even I can almost not even relate with that because I don't feel it anymore. It doesn't happen anymore. So you can get over it. It's just a mental battle. It's just something that your brain is stuck on. And, because our brain doesn't like things that aren't solved. Our brain doesn't like bad endings to stories. Our brains hate that. When you get a story and the ending is just terrible, it's like, that's so annoying. Our brains don't like that. It's very natural. So when you have a story that's even like a real story that happened to you and the end is just stupid, you don't like it, it's hard for our brains to overcome that. We like a good ending. But not everything's always a good ending. But then again, it's not really the end either. Your story continues on. That's just a little part of it. And so if you take action, you can allow this to make you a stronger person, right? And you know that. So you just gotta keep fighting it, you know? And when it comes, remind yourself not to let the darkness overcome you and to find those things that oppose, find those exact things that oppose the trauma, oppose the bad thing. Like, this person used me. Yeah, but I don't necessarily have to believe in the concept of use because, I mean, when you use somebody, right? Like, okay, if somebody uses me, that's me. Like, the only possibility of someone using me is if I didn't give consent, you know? And I'll tell you, pretty much any relationship I've been in, I've given my consent to whatever happens. Because whatever happens, happens. And our intention is to get through it and make the best of it. But like, most of the time, like when I'm used, it's because it's actually my ability to suffer for somebody else. And so the reality is not that they used me, but that I gave a part of myself for them. And so I can spin that around. I can take they used me to I made a sacrifice. And that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really what it is. When someone uses you, a lot of times you're actually just making a sacrifice for them in most scenarios. Now, there are other scenarios, I will say, like physical abuse, things like that, which are not okay. That type of using is not necessarily in line with that sort of thinking, because then it's not like I gave any sort of consent, you know. But in a relationship, when someone maybe uses you to just make themselves feel good and they didn't really care about who you were or your feelings or whatever. And in scenarios like that, you can say to yourself, well, everything on my end, everything I did was okay. And I was doing that for them to help them feel better. And I did. So it's unfortunate that things took a turn the way they did and that they didn't grow out of the experience, but maybe someday they will. To be a loving person, I think is crucially important to, forgiveness, but also to hoping for the best for yourself and for others. And I think you have that already. You're already a pretty loving person. So,
yeah. And from some of the things you've posted here, it looks like you've already made a lot of progress in this area. Some after effects that you're still dealing with. And, it's a tough thing. Some things, like Ryan said, sometimes things never quite go all the way away.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're still left with scars.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, and sometimes remembering those can be painful. Sometimes we can take pride in them a little bit and be mm-hmm. like, hey, look at what I've experienced and survived through, Right. So you can look at it in a couple of different ways, but I do have to say, I'm really proud of you for the process that you've gone through, for that you've stuck through this long and you've made the amount of progress that you've made. I noticed that you posted something about you fear that like you experience fear when you see her or when you see this person.
Mm-hmm.
And a great way to deal with fear we'll just do a little real quick is just think about, okay, when you experience fear, a good thing to ask yourself is, why am I experiencing this fear? Is there any danger involved? And sometimes we fear the trauma that we've experienced in the past. So sometimes that's the case. But in the situation you're in right now, when you experience that fear, is there any danger? And you can ask yourself that question. And from there, most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the time, when we fear something, there actually is no danger of anything. It's just something conjured up in our brain, where we think something bad might happen. So it's kind of our self-defense mechanism. Fear is a self-defense and self-preservation mechanism that we have. So when you experience fear, you can ask, is there any danger? And then you can ask, okay, well, what's the worst thing possible that could happen here? I'm afraid of something here. What's the absolute worst thing that could come from this experience? And come to grips with that and be like, okay, I know how to handle that worst thing. When you actually experience that in your brain and you're like, all right, now I know what I'm going to do if the worst thing happens. Now everything else is going to be easier than that. And when you already have a plan for the worst thing that can happen, it's easy to adjust up. It's not so easy to adjust down, to worse things. But once you go through this exercise of imagining the worst that can happen, and then say, all right, this is what I'll do if that happens. And now I know what I'm going to do. So if that happens, I know exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be okay. When something not so bad happens, you're prepared. Because really, preparation can go a long way to calming fear. When you're prepared and you feel solid because you're prepared for something, man, that can totally just make you feel so calm and so at ease, and it can calm that feeling of fear so much. So I hope it's not always easy to remember to do that. So, because I always forget. Excuse me. But hopefully some of that can help you. And thank you for posting, because that was a really, really great topic. That's not easy to talk about sometimes. It's not easy to bring up. And I'm really proud of you for posting.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I remember there was a shirt my mom got me once. It's a long while back, but it said, "Let's get lost. I know the way." I like the shirt, but it's funny because that's kind of how fear is, or the fight against fear is. It's kind of like when you don't care if you get lost, when you know that everything's going to be okay, even if things don't go right. I think being prepared helps ease your mind for a lot of those things. But even I think if you can remember that there's excitement, I guess, to a degree, in the unknown, that can help remove your fear. In this scenario, I'm not sure, but I think another thing you can ask is, does my fear help them, and does my fear help me? And if not, then you know the answer of whether you should be afraid or not. And I think you already know that you shouldn't be. But yeah, it can be hard a lot of times. When it's a scenario like this, you might just have to bring it up with the person to finally get that resolve that your brain needs to move forward. Doesn't mean you should bring it up with them. Doesn't mean you have to. But sometimes in a relationship, if that relationship is a continuous one, and this is something that stands between the betterment of you and the other person, if it's an issue that you have a hard time getting over when you're in pretty good, relatively constant communication with the person, when you two are both on good terms, you can bring it up, say, "Hey, look, I've been struggling with this and I don't want to feel this way when I'm around you, but could you help me get over it?" Now there's not like, this was forever ago, and for some reason my brain just is broken here. So could you help me? That will delve into a conversation, and it'll probably likely fix a lot of your issues, because then your brain will finally be able to turn the page on the bad ending of that book, and find a new page to start on. That the story isn't over there. So yeah. So if it comes to that, there might be a day which you can speak about this whole subject to that person in particular, and that can help out a lot. Mm-hmm. If the setting is right, and you're not just playing the blame game. Don't ever play the blame game. If you always blame it on yourself. Say, like, my brain is messed up here, and I want you to help me get over it because I don't know who else to go to. So could you help me? It's my fault. I know that you're not doing anything mean to me now, and you're not using me, but this is just like my brain is caught up on this issue, and I'm having a difficulty here. Could you help me? I think if you take that route, it really can do you a lot of good. So anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have any contact with her anymore. Okay, yeah.
Sometimes that's for the best.
Yeah, sometimes that can be better for the best. That's true.
And sometimes what happens is, then you eventually move on with your life, and 20 years later you end up having your own family, and then they have their own family, and then you run into each other because they're in the same swim class.
That's
your
right.
kids are in the same swim class, and so
and then you look at each other and don't say anything, and then you leave.
Yeah,
eventually, without having.
And you quit, and you go to a different swim school because you're like, doggone it, they're here, so I'm gonna leave.
Oh my! It sounds eerily familiar.
It's somebody
I know.
It's totally a hypothetical. Totally hypothetical.
Yeah, hypothetical. I get it. Yeah,
experiential story.
Right. No one's ever experienced that.
Right.
So, whatever, Jim.
Hi, Noah. Good to see you.
Oh, long time no see. Hey.
I know it's right at the end though. We're just about to close it down.
Noah. Noah, do you hear people say your name sometimes when they're just like, no? They're saying no, and they just say your name, and they're like, what do you want? Why are you saying my name like that? It's not pronounced that way. No.
Yeah.
All the time. No. What?
That's great.
Poor Noah.
Because I hear
like
that
name though. Noah, it's a great name.
I hear that from my children.
Mm-hmm.
No,
it's not going to help you.
Just go.
Go. Why the what at the end? What's that all about?
I don't know. I don't know. It's amazing. So great. Well,
hey, Magician Jester.
Posting. Yeah. Wow. You guys are awesome. The chat has been just wonderful tonight. You guys are so great. And Haley, remember that you are in our thoughts and prayers, and you are very good company. I can tell just from reading your words, and I'm not all that into kidnapping though, so I have to apologize. Plus, here's the thing: if I kidnapped you, you really not be thrilled. I don't think. Yes, first of all, it's a crime. Second of all, it's like I said at the beginning of the stream, once you get to know, so if you knew half of the stuff that I deal with, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to listen to that guy.
I don't want to live with that guy.
Man, that guy is terrible. Jeez, I'm out of here. Give me my problems back. I want my own problems back.
I want my mom. Yeah, I want you to have your mom too. Go get her.
Yes, but yeah, Haley, I know it's a tough situation, and you are in our thoughts and prayers.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, all of you are. We pray for you guys, and we think about you guys all the time. We have regular conference calls, and we think about better ways that we can serve you guys, better ways that we can put our website together, different things we can put together, and we got all sorts of things coming out, which is great. And and I can't wait until we're able to start rolling them out. So you guys are fantastic, and we're so glad to have you with us. Come back on Friday. We're going to do this again. It's going to be a good time. In the meantime, go to bss.studio. If you think something you want to talk about, go here. I'm going to post it again. Go there.
Thanks for wishing us a Propone Sunday. Propone? Suddenly, you're awesome.
Oh, Sonali, thank you, by the way, for the heads up on the incorrect date on the YouTube stuff. I fixed it. Thank you.
Drachi, no, I didn't, but I wish you a happy early birthday. I know that you have a birthday on Sunday, so I plan to sing you a birthday then if you come to our stream.
And we're going to sing it in the style of Applebee's restaurant.
Hey. Happy birthday, happy you, happy birthday. Whew. Something like that.
Yeah, that one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. You know the one. This is the one. Oh, yes.
Oh man. Oh, Magician Jesse, you go home for lunch. Yes, go home for lunch. I'm gonna go. It's gonna be great. But I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming. And come back Friday. We'll be here. It'll be a good time. If you have any issues or questions, post them there on the questions topics from the live stream section, and go to bss.studio. Get involved in the forums. There's a bunch of great stuff. And here's another thing. Those of you who don't know, we do have we have added a new feature. It's like a regular email that comes out. And I've been really inspired by it. What?
I'm just laughing at Science Rocks. Oh. You birthday, happy day. Is that what he said?
Happy day.
Happy you birthday, happy day.
Yes. Oh, you guys are great. But anyway, so go to bss.studio, check it out, have a good time, get involved. It's a great time. And we will see you next time. Jesse gets them too. Jesse gets everything. And if you have any problems at all, just open up a support ticket. Email tech support.
Email tech support. You have the option. You can actually email tech support for various of issues. One of them is just simply Joseph Anderson.
Don't do that. So
you can don't do that. Just if you see Joe as a reason for support, like hey, I'm having troubles with the shop right now, or I'm having troubles with the forums. But there's also just I'm having troubles with Joe, so you can put that there if you want.
Yeah, there is a Joe topic in the support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I was bequeathed that graciously. It was great.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. These are the people I work with. They're awesome. So yeah, but yeah, go in there and have a good time. And we will see you on Friday. And enjoy yourselves. You guys are amazing.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, guys. Love you.
Love you.